I'm very delighted to be here. Before I really do a little bit of my talking, I would make one or two observations so that we set pace for what we want to discuss. We have about an hour, and I'll speak probably for about 30-35 minutes. If I last a little longer, we'll see how it goes. And then we'll have more time to talk to each other rather than just listening on one way. This should not become a monologue. This should become a dialogue. Two quick observations. One, I think Mr. Murthy was trying to introduce me. As you all know, the shorter the person, the longer the introduction. And therefore, I thought I would scuttle the whole thing and hide it away from you, but he wouldn't stop, so he did that. The second thing is very exciting. He said I have some commitments. I think commitments to this function, possibly that is true. But I think there is a kind of a selfish motivation to come here. Where else you'll get an opportunity to meet Swami Bodhamanandi again? Where else you get an opportunity to see this wonderful mutt premises? I had the great fortune of listening to Swami Ranganathanandaji when I was a faculty member at IIM Ahmedabad. I never knew that 15 years, 20 years down the line, I will have an opportunity to see an institution that he has created, because he is such a towering personality among the Ramakrishna monks. He was the president of the All India, president of the nation for the Ramakrishna Mission set of chain of institutions. And I was extremely fortunate to be a part of this celebration. Therefore, there is no commitment. Actually, it is an honor. It is actually my good fortune that I could make it to come here. And I'm very delighted to be here. Regarding these flight schedules and all, I think we can blame it on the scheduling complications of airlines and also my inefficient way of handling my own engagements. I think that's a way to put it together. Day before yesterday, I was in Tirupati. That's why you can see that I looked a little transformed. Okay, I thought the best thing that I can give to Lord is just know what is what is probably non-essential in the overall context of things. So I walked the hills day before yesterday, and then spent some time with Balaji. I don't know whether he spoke to me. I spoke to him a lot because I think whether if he speaks or not, only time will tell. But I spoke to him a lot. It was a heart-to-heart conversation. And only thing is, he was listening like a deaf fellow. He was not even responding. Hopefully. So I did that, and I think I was very full of bliss at the end of the 10 minutes interaction with Balaji. And I'm delighted to be here because these are the trios, and Swami Vivekananda ji are all no different from the eternal powers which had come to help every human being in this world. So I'm very delighted to be a part of this celebration. As far as there was a remark that I'm looking young, I think that's absolutely not true. And every one of you know that I look old. But people who introduce have to add some packaging, so they do all that. And I'll give you a concrete evidence as why I'm becoming old. Earlier, when I used to do the speeches, I used to do it from my memory. But today I have got a memory pad, so I just start writing. Therefore, obviously, I'm getting old. So I think getting old is not a liability, it is a virtue actually. Because when you get old, people tend to listen to you. They don't listen to you, but they tend to listen to you. Now, I think I'll leave this introduction at this stage, so that sets the stage for a discussion. I'm absolutely delighted to be a part of this function for a variety of reasons. The topic that is given, topic for this function is transforming yourself and therefore transforming India. I would divide my interaction with you into 2 or 3 parts, and I will put a small conceptual frame as what is this topic is all about, and then get to a little bit on what's happening in India, and it will be very macro, and then get a little bit on what you and I can do, and therefore make a difference to our life. That I think is the way in which I had positioned this talk. Let me just quickly spend a few minutes on what is transformation. Transformation, I'm a little bit of a mythological fellow in some sense because I come from a family background which is a Vaishnava family background. I had the opportunity to listen to the scriptures when I was very young. It's all my grandmother's tuition, and I did not get a degree or a diploma, but when he used to give these rice-soaked meals with a nice curd, she will also tell some of these stories. Transformation is precisely what Trivikrama did, or Vikrama did, or Vamana did, Kshetriya, Manushya, Dasasyanne, 3 Logan Padan, for example, he hid himself in the form of a human being and went to Mahabali and asked for 3 steps of land, and eventually he measured the whole world. That, I think, is transformation. From dwarfness to gigantic form, from nothing to occupying the whole universe, I think is transformation. It's also a very exciting, if you're a rational mind, and if you are a little bit immature mind, you will find Trivikrama or Vamana was the most important traitor that the world has ever produced. Because this guy asked for a contractual obligation. The contractual obligation was to seek 3 measure of land. But when the guy agreed with all goodness, bypassing Shukracharya, this guy completely changed the rules of the game. And he completely broke the contract. It's like, service tax department saying one day this is service taxable, the other day it is not service taxable. That I think is their job, because they need to maximize the revenue for government of India. So what is not taxable today will become taxable tomorrow, and depending on how do you argue this and that, etc., things change. In a contractual obligation, jurisprudence or the lawyers or the judges will come and tell you, you can never break a contract. But contracts can be broken if the purpose of breaking the contract is good for the society as a whole. If Mahabali has to be transformed, if Mahabali has to be given the moksha, if Mahabali's ego has to be taken away, if Lord has to establish supremacy over good versus evil, that breaking the contract is probably worthwhile. So there is a transformation or transform in the form in which Mahabali appeared. There is a transform in the purpose for which Mahabali appeared. We need to figure out, that's why you will find sometimes very exciting judgments are written as hyper-technical. They are hyper-technical because they look at the purpose for which the law is made. They look at the purpose for which the constitution is made. They do the purpose for which the contract is made. You don't go by the letter of the contract, you go by the spirit of the contract. And if you take that larger view, the Mahabali-Vamana interaction is an outstanding example of transformation. Now that I thought I'd just put a small definition to transformation and move on. The topic talks about how do we connect our transformation to the nation's transformation. This I think is a very fascinating idea. It sort of connects the Sthula and the Sukshma. It connects the micro and the macro. It connects the seed and the fruit. It depends on how do we look at it. I don't want to brag names, but I have the great fortune of being a good friend of Dr. Kalam. Kalam needs no introduction to the youth of this country. The most friendly, powerful, amiable president the country has ever produced. And I have this good fortune of being a little friendly with him. My friendliness stops only to the point when I ask for an appointment, he gives it to me readily. And when I go to his house in Delhi, he spends a little bit of time with me and then says, there are many things he does to me. And once in a while, he'll give me a telephone call and ask, how are you doing, what's happening, etc. I think I'm very fortunate by God's grace. Now, in one of those conversations, like a little child, I asked him, sir, can I have a photo with you? Like everybody is asking, he said, you want a photo with me? Go ahead. Okay, it did happen. Then I asked him, sir, can I ask you a question? It was a very friendly conversation. I sort of tempted to ask a question. I asked him, sir, this was about 2.5 years before. And I asked him, sir, do you think that there is a way by which corruption can be eliminated from this country? I should not have asked this. This is a stupid question. But I can only behave what I am. Therefore I asked stupid questions. So, he looked at me and smiled. Ravi, why are you asking this question? Sir, who else I can ask? I want a honest answer. But I thought I would ask you, because I know you a little bit more and you like me. At least you'll tell me what is your considered view, whether the corruption in this country will go away or not. He turned around and said, Ravi, let me give you the answer that I give to a large number of student audience wherever I meet, wherever I talk to them. I'll give you the same answer to you and you make your own interpretations as we go along. He said, corruption in this country will go away only when every one of us individually try to resist corruption, try to demolish corruption, try to abolish corruption. If each one of us try and do this, corruption in this country will go away. Now, essentially what he says is something very interesting. The children should have the courage to tell the parents who are corrupt, who have got ill-gotten money, who has got ill-gotten assets, to say, dear father, dear mother, this asset is wonderful, but I don't want it because the means by which you got it is not acceptable. I don't want to go to the best school in the country because I did not get it by merit, I got it by influence. I did not want to wear the best clothes that is possible because I did not earn it. It was achieved by my parents, my well-wishers, whomsoever it is, because of my affection, by means which are not necessarily straightforward. The day in which you and I make the decision to resist the fruits of corruption, corruption cannot go away from this country. This I thought was a very powerful message Dr. Kalam gave it to me, and that ties in very nicely with the topic of this today's conversation in terms of transforming yourself and therefore transforming the country. You can't build a great India unless we have got great people around you. A small variation of this, I sort of like some films, not the ones which are very complicated, like The Beautiful Mind. That's too complicated for me to understand. But I like films where there is one hero and probably two heroines, Pati, Patni or Wo, and then, possibly one fellow hitting 20 fellows simultaneously, all of them are falling down. They all look very, very nice. In that context, if you see that Munnabai, Lagergo's second version of Munnabai, there is a Sardar who makes the real estate deals. Whenever a deal is made, he'll pull out a revolver and shoot and say the deal done. And then, his daughter was to be married and this and that, etc. And somewhere down the line, his daughter asked a very interesting question. Papa, galat rasta se paisa to nahi kamate hai na? That, I think, is the defining moment for this country. If each one of us ask our parents and stop our parents that I do not want your ill-gotten money, corruption in this country will vanish overnight. Because it's easily said, it is easy to clap for 3 minutes, but it is very difficult to resist a wonderful jewelry made up of diamond to resist when it is presented by the contractor to the wife of the person who is in power. The day in which we resist that, I think we'll move to a different direction. Let's move on a little bit more and say individuals are important. Individuals makes wonderful community. Wonderful community makes wonderful society, and wonderful society makes wonderful nation. Therefore, this topic is a connection of micro and macro. This is a topic which connects the Sukshma and the Sthula, whatever way you want to see. Let me give you one more example as how good behavior, good building, good way of doing things will do good to the country, will do good to the society. Many of us will know that Bangladesh is probably as small as half the size of Gujarat, essentially in terms of population. Possibly a little closer to that, but not more than 2/3 of the size of Gujarat. Now, Bangladesh is a country which has got a huge amount of resources in terms of rivers and probably fishes. They can't send a Chandrayaan, they can't send a Mangalayan. They don't have IITs, they don't have IIMs. They did not have the fortune of Ramakrishna being born in that country. They don't have Ramayana, they don't have Mahabharata. With a whole lot of other things that we can talk about what they don't have. But I think it's one country which has put India to shame, because in 1955, Jawaharlal Nehru in this country started the tuberculosis eradication program. Tuberculosis eradication program is continuing in this country even today. What a shame. 50 years, 60 years down the line, a program which started, please realize if there is one disease that God wants to give it to you and you have an option of asking for it, ask for tuberculosis. Why? It can be completely cured. Here is one disease which can be completely cured. Here is a nation which talks about outstanding doctors, outstanding surgeons, outstanding physicians, outstanding medical system. This country cannot eradicate tuberculosis for the last 60 years. I am not going to get into diagnosis. I am not going to say who is responsible for it. The fact is that we are still fighting tuberculosis in this country. With a large amount of WHO health, with a large amount of funds that is getting into it, with a large amount of people involved in it, and Bangladesh can eradicate it. Bangladesh can do it far better than us. How did this happen? Tuberculosis requires taking medication over a period of 9 to 12 months, depending on the dosages that is prescribed. 7 tablets in the morning, 7 tablets in the evening, 3 times a week. Now, what happens, those who are affected by tuberculosis, basically these are people who do not necessarily have the means to meet their life expenses and revenue. They are usually somewhat poor people or economically lower in stature. So they take the medicines for the first 2 or 3 dosages. In 2-3 weeks time, the symptoms go away. They think they have been completely cured. So they get back to work. And then tuberculosis strikes back with vengeance. And therefore, this disease is non-curable. It continues to exist as we go along. Now, what is it Bangladesh has done? Bangladesh has done something very fascinating. There are village communities that are formed. Communities of 20 houses, 30 houses, 40 houses. An elder has been identified as in charge of that community. Anybody who is infected and diagnosed with tuberculosis has to show up in the presence of the village elder and swallow the medicines in front of him. And you must do it for the entire full year. What a public health service system cannot achieve, what doctors cannot achieve, what motivations cannot achieve, what regimentation cannot achieve, has been achieved arising out of respect for elders in a community context. Therefore, if you change the community, If you change the individuals, the nation will be transformed. This, I think, is the second example that I thought I'll just bring it to notice. If you want to clap, clap well, because clapping helps. I tell you why. I was so excited. I also started clapping for 3 minutes because according to one way of belief, if you keep on clapping, you apply pressure on your palms. If you apply pressure on your palms, probably the blood gets pushed back. If that's a reverse flow of the blood to the heart. And if that does, it keeps the heart happy. Therefore, keep clapping. It's a good idea. Okay, that's a little bit of. Yeah, but if you keep on doing it forever, I cannot continue my talk. Therefore, you must also stop somewhere. Flows have to also be moderated very carefully. Both ways. But that's why if you go to the Hanuman temple at the end of the evening when there is arati going on, people are clapping in a big way because it provides an opportunity for you to push the blood flow backwards. All these things become important when you are getting close to 60 like me. Then you start worrying about diabetes, BP, heart, this, that, etc. Knowing well, none of them can be stopped. They will continue to go on as long as they are destined to go on. Having said that, I gave you two examples to communicate to you at a conceptual level how corruption can be eliminated by transforming you and therefore transforming the nation. I gave you another example by which tuberculosis has been eradicated, practical, real example where individuals join together as a community, they do a transformation, things become very different. Now, we can go on, keep on talking about this, and this, I think, the golden opportunity which we lost. Mahatma Gandhi said, India lives in the villages. Jawaharlal Nehru said, Mahatma Gandhi further said, Panchayat Raj is the best way of governing the system. India is collapsing today in terms of administration, not because of anything else, because the community involvement in administration has come down. Or whatever is happening is inappropriate. The way in which you rebuild this community involvement, I think there is a hope for this country. In that larger context, transformation of ourselves and therefore transforming India makes tremendous sense. That, I think, is the conceptual part of what I wanted to talk to you about. Having said that, let me move on a little bit more. Give a little bit of sense of what's happening at the nature, and also possibly what is happening to a modern youth. I don't want to get into prescriptive mode. What I am saying is not necessarily perfect. These are all perceptions, these are all opinions, but there is an element of truth in it because I am not a karma yogi and I cannot see the world beyond a point. Therefore, please take what I am saying with the limitations of an individual and try and see whether you can reflect on it. And if you see a merit in what I am saying, please accept it. If you don't see a merit in what I am saying, discard it and move ahead in life. That, I think, is what I would put as a caveat before we get on to. Look at this country. What is the status of this country? Now, our country is amazing. It is unlike Surya, who is Tejasvi and Tejomaya, because he is chasing dark. This country, we don't know chasing what. It has got the largest river, the Ganges and the Narmada. I come from the banks of Narmada, therefore I am very proud of it. And it has also got the largest polluted Gomati flowing. It has got Mahakaleshwar. It has also got large number of people who do not believe in God. India is extremely difficult to describe because it's one country where, depending on how do you look at it, this country can be seen differently. One set of people will argue that this country has got the largest number of youth, therefore we have demographic dividend. Another set of people will argue that 10 years down the line, the number of people who are going to be more than 60 years in this country is larger than the population of Europe. Therefore, the other side of it is demographic drain. So it depends on how do you want to look at it. India produces the largest number of engineers. The Anna University, which is situated in Tamil Nadu, produces more number of engineers than all the universities in America put together. That's one great statement. But none of our engineers are working for NASA is a matter of great shame. So it depends on what you want to look at. 8% of Madhya Pradesh, 12% of India, this country's population is full of forest. But the trees are vanishing very rapidly. Where they are vanishing is a matter of discussion. Democracy is the dance of this country, but democracy is also seen as a kind of a curse on this country, depending on what you want to look at. Religion is a great virtue. Religion is also seen as a great divider. We send people to Chandrayaan, we have sent people to Mangalayan. But at the same time, there are no Nobel Prize winners. Somebody will come back and say, there is no university from India which is the top 500. It depends on how do you want to look at it. There are billionaires in this country. The richest of the rich compare with the best in the world, but the poorest of poor compare with the worst in the world. Now, India is a country which still has a leprosy problem. India is a country which is seen as a snake charmers. India is a country which is seen as elephants. It has also got wonderful tigers. It's a question of what you want to look at in this country. Therefore, opinion on this country can be completely divided. This is the only country which has an RTA Act. This is a country which is also ranked lowest on corruption. It is the only country which practiced purity in mind and thought in action. It's the only country which does not have sanitation facilities for a large number of people in the country. So this is an amazing country in its own way. Now, if you are confused, that's precisely the purpose. The whole idea was to try and communicate. We can't put your fingers and say India is a great country, India is not a great country. In my opinion, India represents diversity in what we do. Can somebody transform this country? The answer to that question can be very, very fascinating. You can give a direction, you can give a push, you can give an acceleration, and when you keep on moving that, probably the frame of reference in which you are operating changes from one frame to another frame. Maybe that is what we call as the transformation of this country. What could be the great transformation that is possible for this country? Peace, harmony, happiness, wealth, health, and enjoyment and fulfillment of life. If we can move in this direction. I'm not trying to set up pretties we must do this, we must do yoga every day and keep quiet and probably look at the inner soul, but somebody has to also look at the outer souls also. So therefore it is extremely important that you do both. At different stages you do different things. There are dedicated people who pray for themselves and pray for the benefit of the whole world. There are people who have to work for themselves and work for the benefit of the others. We need an organization which is transforming the infrastructure as well as an organization which is transforming the mind. We need a whole range of people to sort of address these issues. So I would leave this issue at this stage. You see healthy people, you see poverty people. You see top class education institution, you see people who cannot read and write. You see people who are extremely honest, you see people who are extremely dishonest in this country. You have the super specialist in medical discipline, you have a large number of people who are dying of epilepsy down the line. Much worse, there are people who are dying of snake bites. That's terrible. You have people who are living in palatial bungalows, tribals are displaced from their own home places. We pray to all women God and treat women with the utmost disrespect. This is an amazing country. Everybody goes and prays to Kali Mata, Gidi, all kinds of things, Ma, Shakti, Navaratri, this, that, etc. When there's a great girl child, we try and figure out how quickly that can be eliminated. I think this is an amazing country in its own way. I'm not blaming anybody. We need to reflect on it very carefully. This is a country which represents diversity, which represents contradictions, which represents hope, which represents probably a despair in some sense. If you look at the infrastructure, Bangalore, Hyderabad is lucky. If you come from the airport, we can reach in about 30-40 minutes any part of the city. Bangalore is not so, Chennai is not so. So infrastructure is a big issue. Education is turning out to be a commercial proposition. Morality is going away. Spirituality does not exist. Happiness is eluding, and bliss is not even talked about. So I think we need to worry about where are we going as a country, and this cannot be allowed to go the way in which it's going over a period of time. Let's quickly go back and see what the youths are looking at in this country. By and large, youths are directionless. Why? After a BTech program, what do you do? I do an MBA. After an MBA, what do you do? I become a programmer. Now this is the direction in which the youth has taken. No youth has told them so far, of course my own children said this, at some point in time I told them, why don't you go and join an IT company, maybe you can make some money. No, I don't want to do this. These are small aberrations. No youth I have ever met so far comes and says, sir, I want to study well, I want to be a best person in whatever I study, and I want to start a company which will match up with Boeing of America. After all, Boeing is started by only a human being, no? Nobody has told me, sir, I want to create a 3M. Nobody has told me this. Sir, I want to create a Southwest airline. Nobody has told me this. I want to create a McDonald's. Nobody has told me this. I want to create something Coca-Cola. Nobody has told me this. I drink Coca-Cola. In fact, my students are so excited because they live on parents' money and bank loan, which may or may not be replaced. The birthdays are celebrated by having Coca-Cola bath. You might have seen, Raja Abhishek, Vibhudi Abhishek, Jala Abhishek, this, that, etc. Have you seen Coca-Cola Abhishek? This is the level in which the youth has reached. They assemble at 12 o'clock, some 30, 40 fellows get together, they take this Kala Pani and put it on his head and consider it as a great Abhishek. Only thing that is missing is Purusha Suktam is missing. If you add Purusha Suktam, it becomes a great Abhishek. That is where my youth is going. Many of them have not visited the library premises, even though we call it as a learning center. You put a Saraswati, there Ma Saraswati is sitting there. There is a small young lady who is destitute, who is orphaned, who is sitting there and reading a book. Nobody has visited the library. Okay. Now everybody visiting YouTube. What they see is a matter of discussion. Nobody wants to get into the intoxication of fame and name. Everybody wants to get the cheaper intoxication. Let's leave that. I mean, youth is moving in its own way, in whatever way it is. Directionless by and large, subsidy oriented. Government jobs is the key. We can keep on talking about many things as we go along. I'm yet to see, for example, in this country, the most fascinating or most disturbing trend is the following. The higher educated you are, the less risk-taking you are. The higher educated you are, the less an entrepreneur you are. Now, I'll come back to this in a minute. You look at the fellow who is staying on the platform, who is a street vendor, who is the vegetable vendor, who collects 100 rupees loan in the morning, buys something, sells something, makes a surplus, returns 10 rupees as an interest on the loan that he has taken, and makes a living for the next day. He is highly risk-taking, he is highly enterprising, he is highly hard-working, he doesn't have anything to fall back. Now look at what's happening what's happening to the more educated people they are. The more educated you are, you have an MSc, PhD, what are you looking for? A government job. If you can get a government job, if you can settle well, probably you look at your life, probably you think that you have arrived. Now, why does it happen? A doctor, a swimmer, an architect, or a scientist, or a carpenter, or a plumber, any professional vocation person you take, the day in which he believes in his vocation, the day in which he believes the mastery of the skills that he has developed, the day in which he believes that, he will become an entrepreneur. He will create an institution. He will create an enterprise. He will create an organization. He will not only be meaningfully employed, he will give jobs to a large number of people. How many civil engineers of this country, when they come out of the college, you tell them, here is 10 crore rupees, can you build a bridge? They will run away. They will run away. They will stand and go and queue up for an aptitude test in a large multinational IT-enabled services company. Because at the end of the day, for writing illegal characters, you get paid. When I say illegal character, when you write a program, when the computer does not recognize it, the compiler does not recognize it, he'll come back and say illegal character. You write that and you get money out of this. Now people are interested in getting into this rather than exemplify. How many of us, for example, who study pharma, want to do a pharma company on their own? How many of them wants to create a molecule inventing structure on their own? How many of us are willing to look at biology more seriously and see whether you can break new frontiers? The reason why this is happening, in my opinion, is we do not have self-confidence in what we do. And that's what Swami Vivekananda kept on saying. Self-confidence is the key to success. Because we don't have self-confidence, we have an education, we have a degree, we have a diploma, we may not necessarily have the competency arising out of the training program. Whomsoever is reasonable for that, we do not transform into entrepreneurs of high end. That's why the country does not have a Boeing, it does not have an Airbus, it does not have Coca-Cola, it does not have a McDonald's, it does not even have a Kentucky Fried Chicken. It only has got this Venki chicken which is running in one state in this country. It should be across the country as a whole, no? Look at this. I think this is something which I think we need to address. And that is something which I think the youth of this country should be worried, should be concerned, should be focused on. Let me move on a little bit more. What inspirations we can take when we assemble here to celebrate Swami Vivekananda's 150th birthday as we go along. To me, Swami Vivekananda stood for several very, very fascinating things. He was the first person to talk about inclusive growth. Well-trained economists who are trained in Europe, trained in America, trained in any other places, took 30 years, 40 years, 60 years to talk about inclusive growth. Swami Vivekananda talked about inclusive growth way back. He was the first person who recognized the power of women and the need to involve women in decision making. He argued and he talked about and said, if half the population of this country is not involved in decision making, is not involved in the freedom struggle, there is no hope for this country. Therefore, he was the first person who talked about women empowerment. Today we have this book called Lean In, written by the Facebook COO and a PhD from, not a PhD, an MBA from Harvard Business School. Everybody talks about we must give adequate space to women. Swami Vivekananda said that in a very simplistic form long back. You and I have compassion. Your compassion without an action has no meaning. Swami Vivekananda stood for joy of action. Now, joy of action, arising out of that compassion, arising out of inclusive growth, equal opportunity is all that what Swami Vivekananda stands for. I'm not a very scholarly person on Swami Vivekananda's works, his life. I know a little bit here and there. Just as Swami Vivekananda said, here and there I do some quotations, I read a book here and there, and possibly listen to some people. Whatever I have imbibed, I'm sharing with you. I may be wrong, I may be approximate. If I'm approximate, excuse me, I may be crude, I seek your forgiveness for that. But having said that, what is that you and I take home? I think, in my opinion, we must inculcate a few things as we go along. The first and foremost, I would say, is as a youth, you must enjoy the joy of action. You must learn to cultivate and enjoy the joy of action. What does it mean? Playing football 3 hours a day so that you become a champion in football. What does it mean? Reading books voraciously of a particular author so that you become a great author later. What does it mean? Playing cricket 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, all 52 weeks in a year, so that you become another Sachin Tendulkar. Dance your way through glory. Sing your way through glory. This is what joy of action means. Joy of action is not equal to playing on Veena on Saraswati Day and forgetting it for the next 6 months, play it on Uttarayan, and then again next Saraswati Puja. That is not acceptable. That is not joy of action. Even if you do, even when I use the word even, please forgive me for saying that, even if you are sweeping a floor, do it so wonderfully well, the floor that you are sweeping outshines the floor that is swept by the next fellow. Even if you do cooking, even if you look at baby care, even if you look at old age care, whatever you do, the joy of action should be imbibed in what you do. Then studies will not be a burden, studies will be a joy. Now that I think is the most important thing that we need to understand. When joy of action is guaranteed, when you work towards this, performance is bound to be outstanding. If you are a scientist, my wife keeps on telling me, every time you read some book, when you come home, you have nothing else to do. There is nothing called family. You look at others, they spend so much time with their family. Yes, there is a bit of a compromise that is necessary. But I think in one sense she is criticizing me, another sense she is praising me. Because my job is what? My job is to read and talk and teach and learn and read. That's my job. That's a cycle that I need to follow. And if I do that, I'm actually doing my job. But it is very difficult to argue with spouses, and even if you are capable, it is not wise to argue, Therefore, it is a good idea to accept whatever she says. You are absolutely right, 100% right, and continue to do what you want to do. This, I think, is what I learned after 30 years of marriage. The monks have no idea what this is about, They cannot handle such very elementary, complicated problems. They will run away from the problems, But whereas you and I have to stay with the problem, conquer the problem, be the captain of the problem, rather than problem becoming your captain, Let's put it in a different context. No offenses meant to the monks, I think they have the ability to move out of the orbit much larger. We are still running around the orbit, which is okay, Now, joy of action will automatically lead to performance excellence. Performance excellence, something very exciting happens with performance excellence. Now, performance excellence gives you the pride, gives you the ownership. And the moment pride and ownership kicks in performance, for example, you have become the gold medalist on swimming, you have become number 1 in your class, you have become the outstanding distinguishing player, you are the best student in your class, this, that, etc., all that has happened. Then ego gets in, pride gets in, ownership gets in. And the moment you get into the ownership, you can't get out of that. It imprisons you in terms of moving ahead and reaching out and realizing what is good for you as an individual. Now, performance is wonderful, but performance-driven culture beyond a point imprisons you. And once you are imprisoned, you can't get out of that. It's like a moth which is waiting to become a butterfly. In order to get out of the butterfly, you need to break open the cocoon in which you are staying. And the only way of getting out of that would be cultivate the sense of detachment. When you are attached, have a sense of detachment. It is very easy to say, it is extremely difficult to practice. That is why many people who are at the very highest positions, when they are ending their retirement age, they go to the government and see whether they can seek an extension. Why? Because you are enamored by the power of performance. You are enamored by the power, association, greed, whatever, name, fame, visibility, whatever that goes along with it. I think joy of action is important. Joy of action leads to performance, outstanding performance. Outstanding performance is likely to trap you with. That's why, even Arjuna was not beyond this. Great warrior. he kept on saying to Krishna, like, look, Krishna, I mean, like, I'm very proud of my appearance. Make sure that you run the chariot in such a way that no arrow falls on my face, like, and of course he was very proud at the end of the day, like, I killed all these people. Of course, like, Krishna has to tell him, like, what I've been killing, you've been killing only those dead bodies, because the day in which I did that Panchashanya, all these souls have departed from wherever they are supposed to be. What you are knocking down was the dead bodies anyway. Like, you do not want any of the arrows to follow in it. You look at my face, you see all the arrows are in my face. I have been your backup, I have been your protector, I have been your guide, I have been your friend. Therefore I listen to you all that. Even Arjuna has to go through this arrogance arising out of performance excellence. The day in which you get out of this, you try at least to get out of this, life will become happy to bliss. When your performance is good, when you are number one, 12 years, my son has been the world champion. There is a pride in it. That makes you feel very good. It's very intoxicating. But that makes you very happy. If you want to move away from happiness to bliss, when there is a next match that is happening, you'll have to work very hard to ensure that you continue to remain as number one. Therefore, the happiness is replaced by restlessness. The happiness is replaced by anxiety. The happiness is replaced by fear. The happiness is replaced by the power of competition. If you want to get out of this, perform well, outstanding performance, do not have attachment, try and create a sense of detachment in what you do. And if you do that, possibly you'll move away from happiness to bliss. The last point that I wanted to make is, whatever we do should be good to the society. If at the end of the day, if you have to compromise yourself, this is precisely what Krishna said in his own way. My own wordings are important, but my Bhakta's words are more important than my words. If I have to keep one promise, I'll keep my Bhakta's promise rather than my promise. That's transformation. Transformation in thinking. Like, do whatever, but do something which is good for the society. In the process, you will get benefited. If you do something good for the society, you are bound to do well for you. And obviously many other things will flow from this. Now, what is also important is, this morning when I was walking with Swamiji for a few minutes, there are opportunities. When you walk with great people, like, there is an opportunity to learn for every occasion. Like, you have got this joy of action, you have got the performance excellence, you have got this detachment as we go along. Then, I think Swamiji said this to me in the Udyan this morning. I was mentioning about this Hanuman statue, this and that, etc. He said it's a great example of humility and performance excellence. This was borrowed from you, stolen from you, Now, I went back and thought about a little bit more. What is this humility? What is this performance excellence, etc., etc. Hanuman crossed this entire gap between India and Sri Lanka like Goshpati Kritam, just as one small step, he just crossed across. How much of distance? 100 yojanas of distance, just like that he crossed. Just as a cow passing through a small puddle, just like that he crossed. And reached there, Lanka Dahan kiya, Sita Darshan Naveshan ho gaya, Sita Darshan hua, he went before Indrajit could not conquer him, he goes back to Ravana and then introduces himself. Ravana was terrified, what is this monkey, where has it come from? Is it Kimeva Bhagavan Nandi Dagata? Has the bull, the divine bull has come here? What is this? Is it Indra? Is it Chandra? Is it who has come? He was worried, petrified, disturbed, Hanuman was occupying his mind space fully. Mandodari vanished from his mind space because Hanuman took those space, if I had kept Mandodari, life would have been better. He would not have done after Sita, many things would not have happened, etc., etc. Hanuman occupied his mind space and then walks into his courtyard and Ravana will not offer him a seat. Therefore, Hanuman makes a small little bit of a seat based on his tail and then sits before him and he says, why this monkey has come to this my courtyard? Let this monkey be asked questions, like CBI asking questions, etc., etc. Hanuman says, after all this, Matya Pratyavaraha Kaschidhanasi Sugriva Sanidau. There is no monkey which is, I am the smallest powerful monkey in the Sainya of Sugriva. Every other monkey is better than me in terms of ability, courage, performance, this, that, etc. That is humility. Humility is to say that I am small. Humility to say, I did it not because I could do it. I could do it because of Ram Prasad. I could do it because my Prabhu asked me to do it. I did it because of my Prabhu. I did it not because of me. I did it because of Sita's virtues. That's why when my tail was put on flame, I did not feel the heat of the flame. Because why? Sita's Pativrata is protecting me. Your ability to identify your performance excellence to people who are good to you is the beginning of humility. And you must have that. This is what I sort of went back and reflected a little bit on and said, like, why did Swamiji say this? Like, Hanuman is a wonderful combination of performance and humility. I thought I got some glimpses, but I think we can build on as we go along. That's a topic for the whole day. But the point is, let pride not take over. Let humility take over when we are actually doing very well in terms of performance. That will make us better human beings. When you become better human beings, you will not do abortion for girl child. Because you are a better human being. You are not interested in performance. You are interested in what is known as dharma. You are interested in what is known as virtues. You are interested in known as what is nature. You will not disturb the natural process as they go along. Now, I am not here to preach. I am not doing dharma provision. But I want to tell you, somewhere down the line, the more you know, the more you must be committed to nature. The less you know, you may make some mistakes here and there. But the more you know, you must be committed to nature. That happens only when you bring that humility. Like, I met the very senior IAS officer of Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam several years before. I don't want to name him because it's not necessary. He's a very powerful man. Like, but Lord Balaji is such an outstanding fellow. Like, you and I have to run around here and there to make some money. Whereas Balaji does not go anywhere. He stands in the same place. He makes 1 crore of rupees every day. Imagine what will happen if he starts moving. Like, he'll make a lot more money. Like, and like, he has got the largest deposit of gold. How many people are employed, how many buses are running, how many chowdhuries, how many toilets, how many people are coming, and an average 40,000 people visit the temple every day. In the peak time, it can be 75 to 80,000 people. Like, all kinds of things happen. Like, this man is in charge of Balaji's Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, IAS officer. So I asked him, sir, how do you feel? He said something very interesting. Ravi, I happen to be the estate manager of Balaji. It is my estate manager of Balaji. It is my good fortune that I happen to be his estate manager. I will do my job to the best of my ability to ensure that I am at the services of Lord Balaji. This, I think, is dramatically important. When you are highly powerful, your ability to recollect, it is not me, it is my parents, it is my well-wishers, it is my teachers, it's my friends, it's my karma, it's my dharma, which allowed me to do this. That humility will take you to greater heights. See, as a matter of fact, the more you disown, the more you own. This is reality. The more you think that you own, you actually disown. Because if you have got 3 houses, you have to go to all the 3 houses. You can't sleep in all 3 houses simultaneously, no? So you have to run out to the 3 houses. If you disown, you have much more freedom. You can do a lot of things very differently. Therefore, humility and the cause of society is extremely important. Let me, last thing that I wanted to add, which I think is important from the practical point of view, is as students, we must take a vow that we will be professional in whatever we do. What is the definition of being professional? Definition of being professional is essentially, I'll take another 5 more minutes and wrap it up because people are getting restless because they have to drop me in the airport to make sure that I go on time. Your tea is getting delayed, and I think there's going to be a very interesting contrast. You are going to have tea, I'm going to have lunch, so life is going to be very different for both of us. But nevertheless, another 15-20 minutes we'll wrap up with question and answer, but I'll take exactly 5 more minutes. Professional orientation is the one. The litmus test for professional orientation is very simple. Whatever I did in the meeting, can I talk in a forum like this without any inhibition and feel good about it? If you can, you are professional. If you cannot, you are not professional. You don't need a judge, you don't need a God, you only need your consciousness. Can I talk about what I did in a meeting to decide on somebody's promotion, to decide on somebody's increment, to decide on somebody's job, to send somebody out, to do a disciplinary action? Can I talk about it in a public forum without any inhibition and feel good about it? You can talk about it without any inhibition, but if you are shameless, that is what happens in, like, the dirty picture mein. Jo ladkon ka chahiye wo mere paas hai, so I am better than ladkon. Is a statement arising out of arrogance. There is a philosophy there, that's a different matter. We'll come back to that a little later if time permits. I don't think time will permit that. The larger point is, you can talk about things in public forum if you are shameless. But if you can talk about things in a public forum and feel good about it, then you are very professional. And if you are very professional, you don't have to fear anybody. Everything else follows from that. That is karma, that is dharma. If karma and dharma is there, Shuk, Shanti, etc. will follow one after the other, and you will become a wonderful human being. That, I think, is the last but one message. The last message is the following. I'm going to narrate a small little story, and then, we live in a world which is very complicated. the generation gap is becoming larger and larger. People will come and talk to you, talk to you about, you must build on truth. Certainly, it's useful, but it's difficult to practice because Government of India slogan says, Satyamev Jayate, but it never said when. Satyamev Jayate, sahi hai, but when? It's a matter of question, after my generation, what is the point? Satyamev Jayate, sabko pata hai, when? Is a much larger question that we need to ask. So truth is very important, truthfulness is very important, transparency and honesty is extremely important, moral and ethical values are wonderfully important. It looks like one of those social sciences classes where you are taught about moral, ethical, truth, honesty, this, that, etc., etc. I'll give you two very insightful examples. One is in the context of my son, the other one is in the context of my job. Both the things I'll talk about and leave this decision finally to you, and that's the last point that I wanted to make. My son was employed in ITC. He is now studying somewhere abroad, so which is irrelevant for the discussion. And he was being treated exceptionally well by his boss, and I have been generally Garsar now. He'll talk about his boss very well. He was handpicked by the company for a good salary of about 1 lakh of rupees a month when he was finished his engineering college. He was working for ITC. He used to praise his boss in a very big way, etc., etc. And one fine morning, this boy decided to leave the company, and he wanted to go and do an MS somewhere in Europe. So he told me that I got this admission now, everything is okay. I am going to sort of prepare for this. What do you think? I said, fine, it's a good idea, go. If you think that's a good way of living your life, please go ahead. And then I said to him, look, you have such a wonderful boss. Why don't you tell your boss that you are going to leave the company? No, you don't understand the world today. This is my son talking to me, of course, children are far more fascinating. See, one thing that happens if you're in a married life, everybody in your family who was younger to you will know a lot more than you. This is the first assumption. The sabse sarvashreshta to patni hai, he knows everything, there is nothing she does not know, and therefore you have to start with these assumptions, otherwise life can be extremely complicated and challenging, the best way of buying peace will be to tell the wife, you know everything, but you just give your opinion, we will take it and move ahead in life, now, this story is, I'll take 2 minutes to complete this story. He said, Dad, you don't understand the world. Nobody goes and tells the boss that he's going to leave the job. You want me to be stupid? That's not acceptable. I told him, my dear son, you are welcome to do what you think is right. But I have been listening to your conversation between you and your boss. It is such a wonderful relationship. I am sure this fellow is a good fellow. Why don't you tell him that, you are planning to go? Dad, as usual, you are trying to be very persuasive. I am not going to fall into this trap. Okay, I said, fine. If that's your decision, be with it. But I still think you must consider. Okay, 10 days down the line, he calls me up and says, I thought about what you're saying, but my decision is not to tell the boss. Okay? And I will tell him by a postcard after I have left the town where I am working. So let him do whatever he wants. Hey, look at him, he has looked after you well and he has been done this, that, etc., etc. I told him his name is Piran, he's Piran, P-I-R-A-N. Many people call him as Pran, but of course he's our Pran, that's a different story. But his name is Piran, P-I-R. I told him, Piran, it's not a good idea. You seem to have an outstanding boss. Just take a chance, just go and tell him, this is what you plan to do, see how he reacts, and if it gets complicated, we are behind you, don't worry. So literally I pushed this child. So it went to the boss and told the boss, look, my dad tells me I must do the following, therefore I am doing this. Okay, all right. Okay. He didn't say that he is a smart fellow. So he said, Mr. So-and-so, I decided to leave the company and I'm going to this place and I'm going to do an MS. Thank you very much for all your support. I just want to let you know this before. You know what the boss said? Wonderful, Piran, it's outstanding, great, brilliant, I'm not surprised. You are such a smart fellow. You are bound to do this. I'm so happy and delighted that you are going to do your post-graduation. You know what he says? In all probability, Piran, you may not come back to this country because you are a good fellow, you will move ahead, etc., etc. Should you decide to come back, ITC doors are open to you. And then he says something more. Piran, you are going to study for higher education. Since you are not asked for loan, you are not asked for anything, but I'll give you 1 year study leave without asking. Wonderful. 7th of that month you want to leave this company, we'll give you the salary for the whole month, even though you have not worked. If you want anything else, please let me know. This idiot son of mine calls me, Dad, you are wonderful, you are very right. How correct you are. Okay? Now it could have gone the other way around also. It would have gone the other way. But you have nothing to hide because you told him the truth. You never deceived somebody. You never betrayed somebody. You never kept a gap between you and your boss. You told him what it is. It is for him to deal with it. It is not your problem anymore. So to me, the greatest virtue of living by truthfulness, giving by transparency, of course, it doesn't mean that you walk up to a girl and say, you look very ugly. That may be true, but you don't tell that girl. Then you'll never get married. Like, if you got married, it's a different story. Every girl should look very ugly. That's a different story. But that is at a conceptual level. Now, the larger point is you have to understand truth, honesty, transparency as the greatest strength a human being can ever build in life. And if you got that strength, fear for nothing. Hey Lord, if you have decided to protect me, how does the protection of others matter? If you decide not to protect me, how does the protection of others matter? What matters is truth. What matters is sachai. What matters is transparency. If that is how you build your career, nothing can come in your way. That, I think, is the first part of the positive story. I'll give you the second part of the story, why it is very complicated. That is in the context of my job. Amazing situations, of course. There was a girl in my institute who was found to be copying in the economics exam. Copying means verbatim copy. Perfectly well done job. Okay? The teacher found out this and gave her a fail grade in that particular subject. All hell broke loose. The girl was not bothered because women are nowadays, young children are not women. Young children are simply not bothered about anything. You are taking a picture of me, madam. You should have told me I would have come and stand here so that you'll have a good picture. With all this mic and all, it will not come out all right. You want to take a picture? Please do. We'll give an opportunity. Now, the larger point is, look at this story. This story is very interesting. Where were we? Economics exam, full-time copy, 100% copy, fail grade. The girl student is not bothered. His father calls me up. Sir, I want to speak to you. You are welcome to speak to me because there is a phone, there is a mobile. You can't avoid, I can't avoid. Please speak. All right, what are we going to speak about? We'll discuss that. The fellow says, sir, my daughter has been given F grade. I said, very good. Sir, why are you saying it's very good? It's very bad. I said, okay, if some teacher has given an F grade, there should be a reason. Now the reason, what was the reason? I asked him. Sir, she copied. Did she admit copying? I said, she said, the father said, yes. So then what's the problem? Sir, in this world, small children make mistakes. As a teacher, you must forgive and give her a better grade. Okay? I asked him, then I got really excited. This is absolutely amazing. I asked him, sir, can you please tell me what are you doing? Professor of Physiology, Government Medical College. This is what this guy is. बेटी तो मेरा है ना, टेढ़ा मेढ़ा है फिर भी मेरा है, and therefore बेटी मेरा है, इसलिए copying is acceptable. Copying is probably a virtue also. Then I asked him, sir, you are a professor, head of the department of a government medical college. Now, suppose, sir, you find in the MBBS exam a student copying. What will you do, sir? I will throw him out. I will fail him. That is what we have done, sir. So what is the problem? I should have never spoken to you. Thank you very much, sir. End of the story. This is story 1. Story 2. Young boy steals the credit card of another young boy. It would have been a girl, it is better. But another young boy. Okay? Now caught. The other boy was very smart. So he immediately blocked the card, blocked the bank account. Meanwhile, this boy is smart. So he went around, went to the ATM, which is on the campus, took 4 times money. How much is the total money withdrawn? 24,000 rupees. Exactly 24 aksharas of Gayatri, he multiplied by 1,000, 24,000 rupees he took. Alright? Now parents have been called, the video recording shows the fellow has drawn the money, etc., etc. The father is a businessman in Delhi, he flies down with his wife and comes to my office. Sir, why are you making such a big drama? Now, I said, this boy has stolen the credit card and he has also stolen 24,000 rupees from his account. Sir, ये बड़ी बात है क्या? मैं अभी 24,000 भरने के तैयार हूँ, छोड़ दो बच्चे को. वो दिल्ली वाला ना, बात करता है हिंदी में स्टाइल से बात करता है. 24,000 थोड़ी पैसा है सर, ये थोड़ी क्रिमिनल ऑफेंस है क्या? क्यों तो आपको परेशान कर रहे हैं? मुझे भी परेशान किया, मैं दिल्ली से आना पड़ता है, काम करना पड़ता है सर, आप समझते नहीं है. I said, the problem is not with your son, the problem is with you. We are living in a world like this. I'll tell you something, this is a mart, so I'll be a little very subtle. In a surprise check, we found in the girls' hostel contraceptives. Nothing wrong, nothing right. Because this is a non-American society, it's Indian society. You know what happened? The mother of the girl came and said, these are my contraceptives I kept in the girls' hostel. How painful it is, how painful it is. These are not stories. These are realities of life. Now in this world, how do we live corruption free? In this world, how do you live professionally? In this world, how do you follow transparency? In this world, how do you follow truthfulness? In this world, how do you become performance oriented? In this world, how to do something for the society? In this world, how do you protect yourself from these vultures? This, I think, is the biggest challenge before the youth. Now, my only submission is, I don't have an answer to any of these questions. My only submission is, if your actions are based on truth, if your actions are based on transparency, if your actions are based on professionalism, even God cannot shake you up. And therefore, you will have an eternal bliss in what you do. May I therefore invite you to take a vow on your own that you will follow the path of truth, you will follow the path of transparency, you will follow the path of professionalism, you will follow the path of attachment with detachment, and therefore you will do good to yourself, to your family, to your community, and therefore to the nation. Thank you very much. Okay, all right. Swamiji tells me that I must take up some questions. I have a lot of time. Nothing will go wrong. 2:30 is my flight. It's okay. If I miss the flight also, I can stay back here. This is not a problem. There are a number of, I think I see several questions. We'll do all of them. Don't worry. Okay. You mentioned in your speech that to get transformed, we need to get detached from the attachment. Can you please explain how it can be done? This is wonderful. Hanumanji, I will go back to our example of Hanumanji. He was woven by the Brahmastra of Indra. Indrajit had this astra and therefore he applied it on Hanuman because this monkey is jumping up and down, it is not behaving, let me tie it down. He tied down. Now, of course, Rakshasas are all full of foolish people, therefore when Brahmastra was active, interesting, when Brahmastra is applied, people feel shattered. But Hanumanji, as the boon from Brahma, that this will be effective on him only for one muhurta time. He had this very interesting backup arrangement. So he behaved quite all right. All right, if Brahmastra is on me, I will obey. Brahma has to be respected, so I will obey him. All these Rakshasas, see what you and I will do is, we get very, very attached to this Brahmastra and our own personal safety and start jumping up and down. Then Brahmastra will start doing its own work because action-reaction scenario will come in. The Brahmastra has been applied, Hanuman is trying to resist it, action-reaction will happen. Therefore, the moment you get attached, you start reacting to this whole thing. You become detached, be happy, Brahma will protect you, be happy, enjoy. You know what happened? All the Rakshasas started tying down with ropes and other things. Brahmastra got insulted. When I am active, how can you use the other astras to tie down this monkey? So Brahmastra left that place. So Hanuman became liberated. This is what happens when you are not attached. This is one example, but we can give as many examples as you want. Please realize this, attachment is arising out of affection. Affection is arising out of bias. Please realize, you show affection to your children. You show affection to your brother. You show affection to your sister. This is attachment and this is binding. The day in which you show the same affection that you show to your brother and sisters to anybody else, you are able to address the world as brothers and sisters of America. The day in which you do that, you like your child. The day in which you start liking every child, you have moved out of this attachment and you are transforming to a very, very free, blissed soul. That I think is the direction to go. It's difficult. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. Because you have to understand, let me rationally put it. You got an excellent jewelry. It costed you 50,000 rupees. Pure gold, made by the best jeweler in the city. How long you are going to use it? Maximum, as long as you are alive. After that, what happens? The first thing they will take you out of your body when your soul departs your body is all the jewelries. That's the first thing they will take you out. And who will take it out? Your nearest dear and here. Your husband will take it out. If you don't have a husband, your father will take it out. If you don't have a father, your brother will take it out. The first thing that will go out of your body is this wonderful jewelry with whom you had so much of an attachment. What is the point? Take this in a very different way. I have purchased the jewelry costing 150,000 rupees. For how long? You think it's a fixed asset. I think it's a leased asset. It's a leased asset as long as you are living. The moment you quit this body, this asset has no meaning. I have a property in Chennai. My father has purchased from my ancestral property. Alright? I have this property. Do I own the property forever? No. My mother passed away a year and a half before. Did she take the property and go? We only kept a picture of her in the home. So what essentially means is all fixed assets are leased assets. The moment you get this, your detachment will automatically start creeping in. Creeping in. We must feel for those people who are attached with everything. Let me leave that question at that stage. All right. Since the past 66 years, India is being called a developing country. When can it be called developed? When you and I develop. Till then, no. Okay, these are very interesting questions because India is a very difficult country. It is not like Europe. It is not like America. There is diversity everywhere. Like as I mentioned to you, the population of Malaysia is lower than the population of Gujarat. So we are talking about a very different country. How to create an education to youth which makes studies joyful? Is our education system doing that? The answer is no. Education becomes joyful only when the teachers are sensible and the syllabus is meaningful. Okay. Now, all right. Unfortunately, none of them are true. Because the most exciting job for anybody today is a teaching job, because this is a job where you get 2 holidays in a week and 2 months holidays in a year, and every 3 months there is a holiday, and once you are prepared, you can repeat it forever. My father-in-law used to say this, like, you are a teacher, no? Once you are prepared, you don't have to prepare every day, no? It goes on for 30 years. He had a different idea of what teaching profession is all about. Anyways, he was a lawyer, so he has to prepare for cases every day. He thought, I don't have to prepare for every day. So therefore, it's an interesting story. Yes, it is very difficult to make it joyful in the current context. If you got good teachers, you got a good syllabus, and if you are a motivated student, it will be very joyful. But you don't see, please again look at it this way. Education need not necessarily happen in the classroom. I'm not trying to be apologetic. It is up to you to educate yourself. You can learn from anywhere, from a driver, from a peon, from a carpenter, from a plumber, from your classmate, from your teacher, from a friend. When you go to a teacher's class and if the fellow communicates terribly, you have learned as how to not to communicate. You have learned as how not to communicate. Now, I think if you keep your eyes and ears open, learning opportunities exist everywhere, and that can be made very joyful. Of course, it can be facilitated if you got a good school, good educational system, good teachers. In the absence of it, we'll have to navigate it somehow as we go along. Do you really believe that value can be inculcated? I don't care whether it can be inculcated or it can be imbibed. All that I'm saying is the following. If you have values, you have become virtuous. If you are virtuous, you are indomitable. If you are indomitable, success will follow. It's up to you. Whether it comes from you, whether it's come from a prescription, or you go to Ramakrishna Math, pray to Swamiji, fall at his feet, he says, value devo bhava. That's okay. It's up to you. It's up to you. But you have to have values. If you have no values, you are as good as a dead body. Okay, where it comes from is a matter of discussion. Therefore, that question is answered. Sir, thank you for your time. That means this fellow wants me to go. Which way the management in India is different from the Western world like USA? Your insight will be helpful, sir. Okay, now this I can give a lot of insights on this. See, for example, in America, people are more transparent than Indian. They are stupid, but they are more transparent. In India, we are very clever and we are not transparent. Okay, those who have you gone to this place called Chidambaram in Tamil Nadu, there is something called Chidambara Ragasyam. I am trying to figure out for the last 30 years what it is not very clear. Okay? Now you go to Brigadishwaran temple in Tanjore, you see this Shiva Linga. nobody knows what is the true meaning but for these very learned, educated people. Linga has got a very different connotation as we go along. India is the only country which has got this great Acharya called Shankaracharya who talked about Advaitam. It is also the country which talked about Visishtadvaitam. And we enjoy Sthula Sukshma connection. We enjoy this, like, Atma Paramatma connection. We are very comfortable in living with contradictions. We are comfortable in having a rational debate on it. Please realize, sex as a subject is not discussed in the dining table. Politics is discussed. But India has produced Kama Sutra, which is sold in America, because they are only discussing, whereas Indians are probably using it. Let's put it in a different context. Now, the larger point is, I'm not trying to be nasty. The larger point is, we believe in lot of non-transparent way of doing things. I'm not saying therefore they are bad. For example, we don't do certain things in explicit form. We do things in an implicit form. Therefore, the management system of India should be of that kind. It should be connected to that. I'm not saying therefore go and learn management from Upanishads. I'm not saying that. But we need to position the Oriental culture in the context of American knowledge. Then I think our management education will be a lot more meaningful. That I think is the real difference. Okay? I hope I answered the question. When the things in the world is changing too fast, how could we get adjusted to our own life? Change fast. See, if you are on a treadmill, you can't walk at your own pace. You have to walk in going to others to learn what is good for you. I think you should keep that focus, then life will become very exciting. I think I exhausted all the questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity.